Today, I announce Labor's plan to create jobs, cut power bills, boost renewables and reduce emissions. It will see electricity prices fall from the current level by $275 for households.
When it was unveiled a year ago, Labor's promise to cut household electricity prices by $275 was linked to its plans to help fund more renewable energy and to fix the energy grid.
What seemed unthinkable in the 21st century is now underway. A democratic country has been invaded by its nuclear-armed neighbour.
The war in Ukraine and the soaring energy prices that followed made the promise one of the most contentious in the May election campaign.
Wholesale power prices are spiking, so can you guarantee that retail bills won't go up under your government?
Well, electricity prices have fallen 10% since I became Prime Minister.
Our plan will reduce energy costs by $275 by 2025.
In the week after the election, it was revealed that the energy regulator had approved an increase in the standard electricity price by close to half in response to soaring generation costs. The Morrison government had ordered the Australian energy regulator to delay the news.
This is bad news. The minister made a political decision to delay the release of this data.
By October, the federal budget was forecasting a savage 56% increase in power bills over the next 2 years, leaving Labor's promise to cut electricity bills by $275 all but dead.
We've got a problem there, and I will work with my colleagues to consider whether there are regulatory or other steps that we can take to take some of the pressure out of this energy market.
There has not been a lot for the opposition to work with since the election, so despite its own record on energy policy, Peter Dutton has been playing the broken promise card hard on electricity prices. But dealing with a political attack has been nowhere near as difficult as finding a realistic answer to the problem of surging gas prices.
We are acting with some urgency, but we're recognising the complexity here.
This is a complex area of policy.
Household and business consumers of energy might think the government's options would seem pretty simple and obvious. Intervene to cut prices or intervene with a subsidy for the still high prices they pay. But governments don't necessarily have straightforward mechanisms to force prices lower.
Ultimately, the federal government has enormous capacity to intervene in almost wherever they want, but there's the consequences. The coal industry is a bit harder because a lot of the coal activity is legislated and controlled by state governments. We'll see how this plays out, but there's already been some suggestion that there will be an agreement of some sort that the Commonwealth will move on gas and the states will move on coal.
So at the end of the day, it's critical the federal government bring the states together and we have a cooperative agreement.
Until recently, a lot of the brawling about energy prices has focused on gas. That's partly because of ongoing questions about the supply of gas to domestic industry. The supply question started to be sorted with an agreement in September with gas producers, which offered the possibility, rather than a certainty, of lower prices.
To prevent this predicted supply shortfall, I asked the Gladstone LNG producers to provide me with plans to avoid that shortfall. I do expect, with the increased supply, that there will be downward pressure on prices.
The heads of agreement helped lock in the supply. Attention shifted to what could be done on price. There have been various suggestions made, but the conversation has settled on putting caps on the wholesale price of gas.
The government said, quite rightly in my view, that the companies who are achieving windfall profits as a result of what's going on should at the very least sell that gas that goes into the domestic market at an affordable price for Australian consumers, and they should still sell their gas on the export market at whatever price they can get.
High gas prices are primarily a problem for the industrial sector, but they have a knock-on effect to broader energy prices. Coal is still the main source of power for the East Coast electricity market, which powers households.
Most of those coal power plants have long-term coal supply agreements. The trouble is when, for example, the New South Wales privatised the New South Wales coal power plants 10, 12 years ago, and those contracts are now expiring, and hence they're the seeds of the energy crisis that we now suffer.
Where they don't have long-term contracts, they are having to buy coal from the spot market overseas, and like the gas market, the spot price for overseas coal has gone through the roof, and that is the problem that the government's trying to fix by tackling specifically that gas, that coal that's coming into the domestic market out of contract.
And then there's the two big coal mining and burning states of New South Wales and Queensland. They are currently enjoying the royalty boom of record coal prices. If you cap coal prices, the states lose out. In Queensland's case, they not only lose out on the royalties, but since it never privatised its power generators, it also loses out on their booming profits. It argues that it uses those profits to fund household energy subsidies.
Let me say very clearly to the federal government, hands off our generators, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is no way that Queensland is going to sacrifice those returns that we are able to provide back to Queenslanders.
The conversation has now become focused on the states agreeing to cap coal prices, but they want the federal government to compensate them for the loss of royalties, and this will be the focus of discussions on Friday.
If there's a case for some responsible contribution from the Commonwealth, then obviously that will be part of the conversation.
What this is about is consumers and mums and dads right across New South Wales who are going to be faced with huge electricity bill increases.
Treasurer Jim Chalmers has continued to suggest that a deal might not be made on Friday. But both politically and economically, there is a sense that time is running out for the government to resolve this dilemma for an impatient and increasingly anxious public.
They need to move quickly because even when they do put any price constraints in, because of that contracting position, it takes a while for the prices to flow through to the end consumer.